gonna start introducing our second speaker of today. As I was saying, he is okay. Welcome back. He is the head of customer success at the Startup Ideanote, and as head of customer success, he knows what companies need. He helps businesses capture, develop, and prioritize ideas in order to innovate effectively and collaborate online. So, because he could not be here, I will play a presentation that he has recorded for us, and also he will not be here to answer all of your questions. But after Morten's presentation, I will share with you his contact informations, so you can get in touch with him directly through the links that I will share. And for now, I'm gonna play his presentation where he will talk about how digital innovation tools can help in times of crisis. So let's see what Morten has to say.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to the Really Good Innovation Summit. My name is Morten, and it's a pleasure to be here to share stories with like-minded people like yourself. Now, I work with idea management. More specifically, I run the customer success department at a fantastic Copenhagen-based company called Ideanote that works with idea management software. And this particular role has given me privileged access to how a lot of companies, big and small, are currently managing their innovation cycle. And what I'd like to do is share a couple of battlefield anecdotes and observations that I've made over these past 10 months or so. Now, for the sake of brevity, I've attempted to distill these into 3 simple statements that I will unpack over the next 15 to 20 minutes. And although these are by no means groundbreaking discoveries, they do paint an interesting picture of where we are in the current climate in terms of innovation, and how especially digital tools can provide a great framework for successfully executing innovation in a time of crisis. And I'll be focusing on the role of idea management tools. So yeah, let's begin with the basics. I'll kick off by saying that that innovation during a crisis isn't meaningfully different from normal innovation. So innovation during a crisis isn't meaningfully different from normal innovation. And why do I say that? Well, it's because in my meeting with different companies, I see 2 scenarios play out. Typically, on one side, you have newcomers to innovation. So companies that are just now looking to becoming innovation-led. This might be later than what is optimal, but it's certainly better than nothing. I did hear a great metaphor where, if you wait to innovate until the crisis peaks, that's kind of like taking swimming lessons as the boat you're on is sinking. So it's still better than nothing, but your timing could be better. Now that's one scenario. The other one is companies that are already innovating successfully, and they did this before the crisis, and now they're looking to improve upon what they're already doing. And typically, this means taking an existing process, an existing innovation process, and, for example, tying it to a powerful idea management tool. Idea management is a booming industry. I happen to work for just one of many awesome companies, all of which are are very lucky to be as busy as we are these days. So those are the two common scenarios. And I think both are fine. And I say that because to a large extent, you can pull off both of these due to the power of modern day tools, and how far we've come. This is especially true for the companies in the first scenario. I think, just to go back to the boat metaphor, in the same way that you could pull a cord and then all of a sudden in seconds you have this big orange floaty thing, a life raft that will save your life. You can deploy a fully equipped, feature-rich innovation workspace with all the processes you need built into it, right? And you can do this in an afternoon. And there are so many great providers out there. And well, if that's true, if both these scenarios can play out successfully, then what's the problem? Well, unfortunately, despite all of this, I do see companies in the first category deploying innovation as a temporary countermeasure to the crisis. So in the same way that if you survive the sinking ship, it's probably a really good idea to continue your swimming lessons afterward. So my advice would also be to treat innovation never as a one-off activity, but to make sure you can tie it into whatever the post-crisis period looks like for your company. And I say this because whatever you're doing now during the crisis, you should be doing that anyway, innovation-wise. Now, I also realize that it is a bit cheeky to say that innovation is the same with or without the crisis, because naturally, the stakes are much higher now. They're higher than they've ever been, and because the situation is the way it is, we're experiencing an increased reliance on tools, simply because people need to get around issues like social distancing and whatnot. And I see that in a very short time, idea management tools have become for innovation what Zoom has become for communication, because it's simply the most effective way to manage your way out of a crisis, because it seamlessly bridges the gap between our current circumstance and all the things we want to do and all the things that we need to do. So just to recap, whatever you're doing right now in terms of innovation, make sure you continue to do it well into the post-pandemic period, right? Innovation isn't a countermeasure you deploy when you need it. It's something that must be in place at all times so it works when you need it. And that brings me to point number 2, and a sip of water, because really good innovation is continuous, self-service, and relatively frictionless. Continuous, self-service, and relatively frictionless. Because if we want companies to adopt innovation as part of the bedrock of their culture, and not something that they only do, when the entire world is on fire, it must be simple. And I think this is where digital tools make the greatest difference, because it provides exactly that. And luckily, I'm seeing companies use this moment as an opportunity to add more resources to their innovation efforts, acquiring new tools, generally improving upon what they're already doing. And I do think there's something unique about this moment. There's a unique opportunity, because if you're going to strike while the iron is hot, it is not getting any hotter than it is right now. There is an immense willingness to try new things, not necessarily being more risky, but just a general open-mindedness and a quickness to act. In Ideanote, we're seeing procurement times being cut in half because companies, they know they need this tool yesterday. I think a great example that also illustrates this is the number of companies that are being forced to support remote work for their employees. And they're sometimes reluctant to do it and to provide the employees with the necessary resources to work from home efficiently. However, the same companies are also finding that productivity is skyrocketing. And in fact, some of them might actually continue to let people work from home when the crisis ends. We even see an example of companies becoming entirely distributed as a result. And this would never have happened if it wasn't because of the pandemic. An example a little bit closer to home is we had a multi-billion-dollar company approach us and explain to us that despite the crisis, they were seeing spikes in creative output among their employees, and that people were clearly more daring. They were delivering better results, and the question remains: so how do we capitalize on this? How do we carry it into the post-crisis period? Here's a company resisting the urge to only focus on keeping their head above water, and instead looking for growth opportunities. And all the work you put in right now in turning your company more innovation-led will come back tenfold. You'll be able to carry all that with you, because people are already working from home. They're already using their computers more than they tend to. They're in a mode where they're willing to adapt new routines. So it's a great time rather, to shake things up and to strike while the iron is hot. Another question that people will often ask is, what specifically am I trying to do with these tools? Like, what happens when I put them in place? What's the change that come with them? And that leads us to my third and final point. Use digital tools to empower teams as decision makers. So use the tools to empower teams as decision makers. Now, of course, there's a lot more to it than that. But again, for the sake of brevity, we'll keep it simple, because this is where I see the greatest gains for relatively little effort. Again, the unique thing about the crisis, as I mentioned, is the increased willingness to try new things and to accommodate to the circumstances. And what is successful innovation if not exactly the ability to quickly adapt to new circumstances? A crisis like this is the ultimate opportunity to train and flex your innovation muscles. Now, to get back to the point I was making, improving how teams innovate begins with empowering your initiators. So that means there should always be not just a place for submitting ideas, but also for asking for ideas. I've seen impressive examples of this where the crisis resulted in companies moving from top-down run innovation to instead providing almost the entire organization with a space to collaborate, to collect ideas in a structured, meaningful way. All of a sudden, middle management is empowered, and sometimes all the way down to the ground floor, which never ceases to amaze me. Let me show you what that looks like. Okay, I think I've successfully put myself in the corner, and now I'm sharing my screen. This is Ideanote, and Here we have multiple active idea collections owned by different people all across the organization. And this is what I mean when I say we need to empower our teams. We might give middle managers, department heads, an opportunity to dip into the vast sea of knowledge that exists in any organization, to launch calls for ideas for any challenge that they want. And this also happens to make employees or even customers feel more connected to the work that they're doing. I've been in touch with several people, some that have been in their job for 8 months. They still haven't met any of their colleagues in person, but they're still saying they feel more connected to what they're doing than they ever have before, which I think is incredibly interesting. So that's what I mean when I say empowered. Obviously, this would be a best case scenario that we can empower people all the way down. But no matter where you are on the spectrum, there are tremendous benefits to be had. So should you be interested in learning more about this, please don't hesitate to reach out to me. If you want to talk about a certain use case that you're working on right now, I'd love to schedule a call. So don't be shy. And I think I'll leave you with that. So thank you so much to all of you for your time and attention. It's been emotional, and I do appreciate you stopping by to listen. I hope you thoroughly enjoy the rest of the summit, and please do stay safe until next time. Bye, everyone.